Just leave the restaurant or else I will loudly insult you." Gabriel and Matteo Theodore were a couple like no other. They had met 15 years ago and had quickly become inseparable, bound by a love that had grown stronger with each passing year. Both successful in their careers, they were admired and respected by their friends and colleagues. Their relationship was one of mutual support and encouragement, each cheering the other on through life's ups and downs. They had shared countless special moments, but today was particularly important. Today marked their 15th wedding anniversary, and they wanted to celebrate it in style. They decided to choose a renowned upscale restaurant in town, one they had heard was known for its fine dining experience and elegant ambiance. Gabrielle and Matteo both dressed elegantly for the evening. Matteo wore a tailored suit in a deep shade of blue that complemented his skin tone beautifully, while Gabriel chose a crisp white shirt with a dark jacket that highlighted his refined taste. As they looked at each other before leaving, they couldn't help but smile, feeling a renewed sense of excitement and joy about the evening ahead. The couple arrived at the restaurant, and as they stepped out of their car, they exchanged another loving glance. They walked hand in hand toward the entrance, ready to celebrate their love and all the beautiful years they had shared. The soft lights outside the restaurant added to the charm, illuminating the pathway as they made their way to the door. The air was filled with a gentle breeze, adding to the romance of the evening. They could hear the soft murmur of conversations and the occasional clinking of glasses as they approached. When they stepped inside, the ambiance was everything they had hoped for. The restaurant was tastefully decorated, with soft lighting casting a warm glow over the tables draped in fine linen. Beautiful chandeliers hung from the ceiling, adding a touch of elegance to the room. There was a gentle melody playing in the background, setting a serene tone that made Gabriel and Matteo feel they had chosen the perfect place for their celebration. A hostess greeted them with a polite smile, and Gabriel mentioned their reservation. Everything seemed perfect until Harold, the owner of the restaurant, approached. Unlike the hostess, Harold's expression was cold and dismissive as he looked at them. He took a moment to assess Gabriel and Matteo. His eyes narrowed, clearly making judgments based on appearances. Unbeknownst to the couple, Harold harbored deeply ingrained prejudices, and it only took him a second to decide they were not his kind of customers. Despite their best efforts to ignore the tension in the air, it became clear that Harold had no intention of offering them a warm welcome. Gabriel and Matteo noticed his hesitance and glanced at each other, unsure of what was happening. Gabriel politely repeated their reservation details, hoping to clear up any misunderstanding. But Harold merely smirked, replying in a tone laced with disdain, "I think you're in the wrong place." Confused and slightly taken aback, Gabriel tried to clarify, explaining that they had a reservation. But Harold only grew more dismissive, his face turning sour as he insisted, "This restaurant has certain standards, and we reserve the right to refuse service." His words were sharp, and the hostility was unmistakable. Gabriel and Matteo felt a wave of humiliation wash over them. They had never anticipated encountering such blatant disrespect, especially on a day that was supposed to be filled with joy and love. The surrounding patrons noticed the exchange, with some glancing away awkwardly while others appeared uncomfortable with the way the couple was being treated. Gabriel and Matteo's dignified response only highlighted the unfairness of Harold's treatment. They could have argued, could have demanded respect, but instead they chose to keep their dignity intact. Silently, they decided to leave, taking one last look at the beautiful restaurant they had been so excited to dine at. As they walked out, Gabriel squeezed Matteo's hand, and they exchanged a look that spoke volumes. Though deeply hurt, they refused to let Harold's ignorance spoil their evening. They had encountered prejudice before, but the sting of it never truly lessened. This time, however, something felt different. It wasn't just about them being denied a meal. It was a painful reminder of the biases that still existed, even in places meant for celebration and joy. They left with heavy hearts, but as they walked away, Gabriel's mind was already turning over an idea. He felt a new determination stirring within him, a desire to respond to this injustice in a way that went beyond words. Matteo noticed the resolve in Gabriel's eyes and gave him an encouraging nod, sensing that this moment, painful as it was, might become a turning point. The evening had not gone as they had planned, but Gabriel knew that perhaps something meaningful could come out of this. In their 15 years together, Gabriel and Matteo had always chosen to rise above adversity, finding ways to turn negative experiences into growth. This moment, however, felt different. Gabriel knew that he could not let this incident pass without addressing it in some way. 2. A painful rejection. As Gabriel and Matteo walked away from the restaurant, the pain of Harold's blatant rejection weighed heavily on their hearts. This was supposed to be a night of joy, a celebration of their love and the journey they had shared together. Instead, it had been tainted by the cruel prejudices of a man who saw them only through the lens of his own biases. The sting of humiliation was fresh, and the memories of Harold's dismissive expression and cutting words lingered with them, casting a shadow over what should have been a perfect evening. Both Gabriel and Matteo had faced discrimination before, but each experience was painful in its own way. No matter how many times they encountered it, the injustice never became easier to bear. In their careers, they had worked hard, proving themselves in every way possible, rising above societal expectations to achieve success and respect in their fields. They had earned their place, and they knew their worth, yet moments like this were stark reminders of the challenges they still faced simply for being who they were. As they drove home, the silence between them spoke louder than words. Each of them was lost in thought, processing the pain and frustration of the evening. Gabriel, usually calm and level-headed, felt a sense of anger rising within him. He was tired of seeing people like Harold use their power to belittle and exclude others based on unfounded judgments. Matteo reached out and placed a comforting hand on Gabriel's shoulder, sensing his turmoil. They didn't need words to understand each other. The years of love and companionship had created a bond that allowed them to share even the deepest pains without speaking. When they finally arrived home, they sat together, reflecting on what had happened. Matteo looked at Gabriel with empathy, knowing that the incident had affected him deeply. "I'm sorry our night turned out like this," Matteo said softly, his voice filled with warmth and understanding. Gabriel shook his head, trying to shake off the bitterness. "It's not your fault," he replied. "We've dealt with people like Harold before, but I don't think I can just walk away from this one." The weight of Harold's rejection felt personal, and Gabriel couldn't ignore the frustration building inside him. He thought of the countless others who may have faced similar treatment, who may have been judged, dismissed, or treated as less than simply because of who they were. Gabriel and Matteo were fortunate in many ways. They had achieved financial stability, built a life filled with love, and surrounded themselves with friends who supported them. But even with all these blessings, moments like this could still cut deeply, leaving wounds that weren't easily healed. Matteo sensed Gabriel's inner struggle and gently reminded him, "We've always risen above, haven't we? We've always chosen to lead with dignity." Gabriel nodded, appreciating Matteo's strength and perspective. It was true that they had faced challenges before and had always chosen to respond with grace. But this time, Gabriel felt a need to do something more. He couldn't shake the feeling that they had been brought to that restaurant on that night for a reason. As the evening wore on, Gabriel began to share his thoughts with Matteo. He spoke of how the pain of this rejection was not just about them. It was about every person who had ever been made to feel less than, every individual who had been dismissed or insulted because of someone else's narrow-mindedness. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that he had the means to make a difference. He didn't have to be silent. He didn't have to let Harold continue treating others with the same disregard. Matteo listened, his heart swelling with pride as he saw the determination in Gabriel's eyes. He knew that Gabriel was right, and he felt the same desire to respond in a way that would make a real impact. "Maybe this is our opportunity to turn a negative into something positive," Matteo said thoughtfully. Maybe we can use this experience to stand up for what's right and create a change that will last. The pain of Harold's rejection would not be easily forgotten, but Gabriel and Matteo were beginning to see it as a catalyst, a chance to take a stand. They had both spent years building their lives, their careers, and their love for one another. They had risen above countless obstacles, proving again and again that they would not be defined by society's limitations. This moment was just another opportunity to reaffirm their commitment to dignity, equality, and respect. The more they talked, the more they realized that they could not let this experience be just another story of discrimination. Gabriel's mind was already working on a plan, and Matteo could see the spark in his eyes, a fire ignited by the desire to make a difference. They both knew that they couldn't change Harold's mindset, but they could make sure he understood the consequences of his actions. And, more importantly, they could take a step toward creating a world where no one else would have to experience the same pain they had felt that night. As they sat together in their living room, holding hands, Gabriel and Matteo made a silent promise to each other. They would take this pain and transform it into something meaningful. They would use their resources, their voices, and their influence to stand against prejudice. This would not be just another painful memory. It would be the beginning of a new journey, one that would allow them to turn their hurt into hope for others. Their painful rejection at the restaurant had been a harsh reminder of the work still needed to create an inclusive society. But Gabriel and Matteo were ready to rise to the challenge, committed to making a change that would resonate far beyond themselves. They would not let Harold's actions go unanswered. Instead, they would use this experience to champion respect and dignity for all, setting a powerful example for others. 3. The revelation of a hidden identity. As Gabriel and Matteo reflected on the painful experience they had endured at the restaurant, an idea began to form in Gabriel's mind. What Harold didn't know was that Gabriel was no ordinary customer. He was a man of significant influence and resources. In fact, Gabriel, whose full name was Marcus Gabriel Theodore, was a successful entrepreneur with a long list of accomplishments. For years, he had built his business empire from the ground up, investing in ventures that he believed could make a difference and working tirelessly to foster positive change within his community. What made the situation even more significant was that Gabriel had been in the middle of negotiations to purchase a chain of restaurants in the city, a chain that, unbeknownst to Harold, included his very own restaurant. Gabriel had been eyeing the acquisition for months, seeing it as an opportunity to bring his values of inclusion, respect, and exceptional service to the restaurant industry. He had always dreamed of creating dining spaces where everyone, regardless of background, felt welcomed and valued. Now, with Harold's treatment fresh in his mind, Gabriel saw this acquisition in a whole new light. What had once been a straightforward business decision was now personal. Harold's actions had given Gabriel a clear purpose, to ensure that no one else would suffer the humiliation that he and Matteo had experienced. Gabriel knew he had the power to make a difference, and he was determined to do so. In the days that followed, Gabriel kept his plans under wraps, discussing only with Matteo how he would approach the situation. Matteo, who had always admired Gabriel's strength and determination, stood by him with unwavering support. He knew that this was more than just a business move for Gabriel. It was an opportunity to turn the pain they felt into positive change. As negotiations continued, Gabriel remained professional, concealing his personal connection to the incident. He didn't want Harold to know that the very customer he had dismissed was the one who would soon have control over his business. Gabriel wanted Harold to face the consequences of his actions without any warning, to see that his bias and prejudice had cost him more than just a single customer. Finally, the acquisition deal was sealed, and Gabriel officially became the owner of the restaurant chain. The moment was both exhilarating and sobering, as Gabriel realized the magnitude of what he now held in his hands. With ownership came the power to implement his vision, to create a dining environment that embraced diversity and inclusion. And while he intended to do exactly that, he also knew that Harold would have to answer for his behavior. The day Gabriel's acquisition was announced, He called for a meeting with the management team of each restaurant, including Harold. The meeting was set to take place at the very location where Gabriel and Matteo had been dismissed, a fitting stage for what would come next. Gabriel knew that the revelation of his identity would be a shock to Harold, and he wanted the meeting to be an eye-opening experience for him. On the day of the meeting, Gabriel arrived dressed in a tailored suit, exuding the confidence and authority that came naturally to him. Matteo accompanied him, lending quiet support. The two entered the restaurant, a place that held bittersweet memories, but today they walked in with purpose. Gabriel took a moment to glance around, noting the beauty of the place, but also recalling the sting of the previous encounter. He knew that soon things would change. As the management team gathered, Harold walked into the room, completely unaware of what awaited him. When he saw Gabriel, he didn't immediately recognize him as the same customer he had insulted. To Harold, Gabriel was just another successful businessman, a figure to be respected. Harold greeted him with a polite nod, unaware that his own fate was about to be altered. Gabriel began the meeting by introducing himself as the new owner, explaining his vision for the restaurant chain and his desire to make it a welcoming place for all. He spoke eloquently about the values he intended to instill, emphasizing respect, dignity, and equality. The room listened attentively, with most of the management team nodding in agreement, inspired by Gabriel's vision for positive change. Finally, Gabriel turned his attention to Harold. With a calm but resolute tone, he addressed him directly. "Harold, I believe we met once before," he said, watching as Harold's face shifted from confusion to realization. It took a moment, but then the color drained from Harold's face as he recognized Gabriel as the same man he had treated so poorly on that fateful night. Harold's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Gabriel continued, his voice unwavering. "You may remember the night when you dismissed me and my husband, Matteo, without a second thought. We had come here to celebrate a special occasion, and yet we were denied the simple courtesy of a meal." Gabriel paused, letting his words sink in. The room was silent, with the rest of the staff looking at Harold in disbelief, realizing the gravity of his mistake. Harold stammered, trying to form an apology, but Gabriel held up his hand, signaling him to stop. "Actions have consequences, Harold. In a position of power, you had a responsibility to treat every customer with respect, but you chose to act on prejudice. Because of that choice, you are no longer welcome to represent this establishment." Gabriel's words were firm but calm, carrying the weight of someone who had endured and risen above countless injustices. Harold's expression was one of shock and disbelief as he realized that his behavior had led to his own downfall. The power dynamic had shifted entirely, and Harold could no longer hide behind his position. Gabriel had exposed him, not with anger or vengeance, but with dignity and resolve. With Harold dismissed, Gabriel addressed the rest of the team, reinforcing his vision and ensuring that every member understood the importance of the values he held dear. He wanted them to see this change as an opportunity to build something greater, something meaningful that would bring people together rather than divide them. Gabriel knew that he had the chance to create a legacy, a place where everyone could feel welcome, appreciated, and respected. Leaving the restaurant that day, Gabriel and Matteo felt a sense of closure. They had transformed their painful experience into a powerful message of resilience and change. Gabriel's hidden identity had been revealed, not as a weapon of revenge, but as a tool for justice and growth. They knew that this was only the beginning, a step toward creating a world where love, respect, and acceptance were the guiding principles for all. 4. The power move. Taking control of the restaurant. Gabriel's revelation had left the entire management team in stunned silence. Harold, who had once wielded authority over the restaurant with his narrow-minded biases, now found himself without power or a place in the very establishment he had ruled over. Gabriel's calm, calculated approach had shown everyone present the importance of integrity and respect. It wasn't about humiliating Harold. It was about setting a new standard for how people should be treated. Gabriel's goal wasn't just to own a restaurant, it was to make a change. With Harold's departure finalized, Gabriel began the process of reshaping the restaurant in line with his vision. He gathered the staff, speaking to each person individually to understand their roles, strengths, and hopes for the future of the establishment. Gabriel wanted them to feel included and valued from the start, demonstrating through his actions that respect would be the foundation of this new chapter. On his first day as owner, Gabriel instituted an open-door policy for all staff, encouraging them to bring forward their ideas and concerns. He wanted his employees to know that he valued their insights and would work to foster a workplace that thrived on collaboration and mutual respect. This inclusive approach immediately began to change the atmosphere within the restaurant. Employees who had once felt overlooked now felt empowered, and the energy shifted from one of formality to one of warmth and excitement. Gabriel also took the time to reimagine the restaurant's decor, hoping to create an ambiance that truly welcomed everyone. With Mateo's support, he brought in local artists to redesign the walls with vibrant multicultural art that celebrated diversity. The tables were redone with handmade linens sourced from artisans around the world, each piece representing a different culture. Soft lighting, gentle music, and welcoming colors transformed the restaurant into a space that was both elegant and accessible, a place where anyone could walk in and feel at ease. Word quickly spread about the changes Gabriel was making. Regular patrons and new customers alike were intrigued by the fresh vision he was implementing. People began to come not just for the food, but for the experience of being in a space that represented acceptance and inclusivity. Gabriel's vision was taking root, and the restaurant was becoming a beacon in the community, a symbol of what could happen when leaders valued people over prejudice. But Gabriel knew that changing the atmosphere of the restaurant alone was not enough. He wanted his message of respect and equality to extend beyond his doors. So, he partnered with local organizations focused on diversity and inclusion, hosting events and community gatherings at the restaurant to foster meaningful conversations. These events brought together people from all backgrounds, creating an environment where individuals could connect, share their stories, and celebrate their unique identities. One night, the restaurant hosted a community dinner, inviting local leaders, business owners, artists, and families from the neighborhood. Gabriel took a moment to address the guests, sharing his own story and the journey that had brought him to that point. He spoke of the importance of treating one another with dignity, of seeing beyond surface-level judgments to recognize the humanity in every individual. As he finished, the room erupted in applause, not only because of the beautiful words he shared, but because people could see that his actions truly embodied his message. Mateo, standing by Gabriel's side, felt a deep sense of pride. He had always known Gabriel to be a man of conviction, but seeing him transform a painful experience into a powerful force for good made Mateo love and admire him even more. Together, they had turned what had been a moment of rejection into a story of resilience and change. With each passing day, Gabriel's vision for the restaurant became clearer. He added new dishes to the menu, carefully curated from diverse cultural backgrounds to celebrate the richness of global cuisine. He collaborated with chefs who brought their unique culinary perspectives, ensuring that each dish told a story of heritage and tradition. The restaurant wasn't just serving meals, it was offering guests a chance to experience a world of flavors and cultures, making every dining experience memorable. Gabriel also implemented a training program for his staff, focusing on cultural sensitivity, empathy, and customer service. He wanted each employee to feel prepared and confident in their role, understanding that they were a part of something larger than themselves. The staff took to the new training with enthusiasm, seeing it as an opportunity to grow both personally and professionally. Gabriel made it clear that in his restaurant, every person, employee or guest, was deserving of kindness and respect. Meanwhile, Harold was forced to watch from the sidelines as Gabriel's vision flourished. The community that had once been Harold's customer base now gravitated toward Gabriel's establishment, drawn not only by the quality of the food, but by the values that permeated every aspect of the restaurant. Harold's prejudice had cost him more than he could have imagined. It had cost him his place in a thriving, growing establishment that now stood for everything he had rejected. Through Gabriel's leadership, the restaurant was no longer just a business. It had become a symbol of resilience, empathy, and positive transformation. Gabriel and Matteo had turned a painful memory into a powerful lesson, creating a space where no one would ever experience the rejection and humiliation they had felt. Their story resonated far beyond the walls of the restaurant, becoming an inspiration for others to stand against prejudice and embrace the power of compassion. Looking around his restaurant one evening, Gabriel saw people from all walks of life enjoying their meals, laughing, and connecting. It was exactly the vision he had hoped to create, a place where everyone belonged. Gabriel knew that he had achieved something meaningful, not just for himself and Matteo, but for the countless others who would find comfort and acceptance in this space. And as the night grew quieter and the guests began to leave, Gabriel felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond business success. He had shown that kindness, respect, and courage could conquer hate, and he had done so with Matteo by his side. 5. A legacy of love and resilience. As the weeks turned into months, Gabriel's restaurant continued to thrive, solidifying itself as a beloved cornerstone of the community. The values Gabriel had woven into every aspect of the establishment attracted people from all walks of life, drawn by the warmth and respect that permeated the space. Gabriel and Matteo watched with pride as their restaurant blossomed, a living testament to the power of love, resilience, and positive change. Gabriel's story quickly spread beyond the neighborhood. Local newspapers featured articles about the restaurant's transformation and the remarkable journey of its new owner. People marveled at how Gabriel had not only turned around a business but had reshaped it into a beacon of inclusion and empathy. Gabriel received letters of appreciation from patrons who found inspiration in his story, and even other business owners reached out, seeking advice on how to cultivate similar values within their own establishments. One evening, as Gabriel and Matteo were closing up after another busy day, a young couple approached them. They introduced themselves as avid supporters of the restaurant's mission, expressing gratitude for the inclusive environment Gabriel and Matteo had created. "It's more than just a meal here," one of them said. "It's a reminder that there's good in the world and that people can make a difference." For Gabriel, these words affirmed everything he had worked for. He knew that his decision to purchase the restaurant had been about more than just addressing Harold's actions. It had been about setting an example, showing that love and empathy could overcome prejudice and hatred. Every customer who entered the restaurant, every staff member who felt valued, was a part of that legacy. Eventually, Gabriel and Matteo decided to expand the restaurant concept to other neighborhoods, aiming to bring the same sense of community and inclusivity to new locations. With each new restaurant, they carried forward the message that everyone deserved respect, dignity, and a place to belong. Gabriel's dream had evolved from one establishment into a movement, reaching people far and wide. And as for Harold, he became a footnote in the restaurant's story, a reminder of how prejudice can lead to one's downfall. His actions had spurred Gabriel's journey, but his presence was no longer needed or relevant. The restaurant, now flourishing under Gabriel and Matteo's care, was a testament to the strength of those who choose to stand up to discrimination and embrace unity. As Gabriel and Matteo reflected on their journey, they realized they had built more than a successful business. They had built a legacy, one that stood for justice, compassion, and the unwavering belief in the value of every person. Together, they had taken a painful experience and transformed it into a lasting story of hope, creating a place where everyone could come, not just to eat, but to feel seen, respected, and loved. Their restaurant, born from adversity, would continue to stand for generations as a place of joy, acceptance, and resilience.